All right, I'm going to be doing a tier list of all of the assignments in Dome Keeper. One tier list based on how hard I think they are, one tier list based on how cool or fun I think they are. Um, for the difficulty levels on these, I mean, if you're playing in challenge mode, it ranges from maybe slightly easier than brutal difficulty relic hunts to slightly harder than you asked for it difficulty. So it's not like any of these are gonna be completely free to win on the challenge difficulty. So if I rank anything as very easy, keep that in mind. And for some of these, you just need to know like a particular trick. So I'll bring those up as we go through it. Okay, first challenge, Showdown. Monsters on this planet are preparing for a single massive attack. So you play 20 waves, and then at the end of 20 waves, you fight one combat, and if you survive it, you win. I will say right away, I do not like this challenge. I do not think it's a fun challenge. My problem with it is it's pretty much the same as the next challenge, Iron Contribution, where you're not fighting, you're just trying to stockpile resources, except you don't know how you're doing until the end, and you just either lose or win easily, usually. And it's just kind of frustrating, I imagine, to die at the end of all of that. And if you do manage to bring up enough resources, it's just kind of a cakewalk. I think that this is definitely one of the easiest challenges as well. If you are able to get enough resources up that your weapons are fully or nearly fully upgraded, then it's not really a challenge. Next is Iron Contribution. Guild has an urgent need of iron and requests that you deliver a large amount quickly. So you just have reminder gadgets you used. That's going to be a separate video. I'll do a separate video that's like more in-depth tips of how to beat each challenge. Iron Contribution. This one you just need to deliver 200 irons, basically stockpile 200 extra iron, and then click the button. You get 30 minutes in regular and 25 minutes in challenge. I did this one without the additional starter gadget. Something I should mention, a lot of these will give you additional starter gadgets. You can see in the condition. To get those, you just go over here to the right side of your base, you click on additional gadget, select whichever one you want, but for it to be unlocked to select as an additional gadget, you have to win any run, like it says right here. That includes relic hunts, any kind of run. Anyway, so win a run with that gadget. Anyway, I did this one without the additional starter gadget. I didn't find the time limit to be very difficult, and there's no combat. I think that this is actually a great challenge because it provides something pretty unique. It's the only challenge that has no combat whatsoever. So it's similar to the minor mode, prestige mode, where there's no combat at all. It is pretty similar to the Showdown challenge, but in my opinion, it's the good version, where basically this one you have to get really effective at transporting resources up to the top, and I don't think that it's a particularly tight time limit. So while I do like this challenge conceptually, I think in practice it is one of the easier ones, and no, I'm not going to end up putting all of them in very easy, but I think they started you off with some easy ones here. Upside down, the planet has inverted gravity. So Your initial reaction might be the same as mine. Doesn't that make it easier? And the answer is yes. You can bring your resources into a central column and have them fall up into your base, or you can dig vertically for all of your mining, have all your resources like funnel up to the top. It's a beneficial effect. And on regular mode, there's no additional difficulty, so it's going to be one of the easiest assignments on regular, most likely. However, in challenge mode, you have additional strength and wave weight, just meaning the fights are going to be a whole lot harder. And this is actually some of the highest additional wave weight and wave strength of any challenge. Plus, it is the only challenge, I believe, that does not give you a starter gadget. And for those reasons, this is going to be one of the hardest challenges on challenge mode. I am going to put this as very hard. And I've asked some other players in the Discord of various skills levels, and most people seem to agree that Upside Down is one of the hardest. I think it's very fun as well because it's something unique. It doesn't really play out like any of the other challenges. Some of these challenges ended up kind of feeling the same. This one, upside down gravity is an effect you don't normally see. I like it a lot. Maze. Planet has a maze-like map full of corridors and uneven structures. So this one, I do think there are some tricks to it. First one would just be to use a teleporter. Save yourself some time. Second would be take any of the gadgets that fill up the central column. So that's going to be the drilling rig, the underground station, or the lift. Because if you mine on each side of bedrock, then those gadgets will drill through that bedrock for you, giving you a line up the middle, which is so helpful. And then the third thing is to take the supplement that it's the power drill supplement. It lets you drill through bedrock. It's going to make this so much easier. So with all those things in mind, I don't think this is one of the harder challenges. I think it's probably easier than these ones I put in very easy. So I'm going to... Oh, I put the wrong thing in for Showdown earlier. Fixed it. It's fixed. Maze, I'm going to put in easy. In terms of do I like this challenge? Well, again, uniqueness. I think it's different enough from most of the other challenges because you do have to navigate the maze-like structure. However, there was already a maze modifier for regular relic hunts, so I think that this is not the most exciting thing ever. I will put it in cool because I like it more than some of these, and I think it plays out uniquely enough compared to the other challenges. Projectile Hell. Let me see if I put the wrong thing in for Showdown on the other one. I did. I caught it. Anyone who's screaming in their heart for the first few minutes of the video, I got you. Projectile Hell. Planet is infested with flying projectile-spitting monsters. And again, you have some of the highest wave weight, like the Upside Down challenge, 300% and 30. These numbers, you don't have to really know exactly what they mean, but just like relative to each other, you can see it's a lot harder combats than Maze, for example. But you know that everything's going to be projectile spitting. You can get something like the Spire, which will shoot down projectiles for you. You can get the dissolve missiles, or dissolve projectiles, I guess, ability for the laser, just an upgrade you can buy. You can pick the shield and go with projectile reflection. So there's lots of specific anti-projectile things you can do. The real challenge here, I think, comes down to winning the first couple fights, because if you can live long enough to start getting those really good anti-projectile upgrades, get something like the energy trap upgrade for the Spire, at some point it just becomes very easy because you have enough projectile protection that you don't even really get hit by anything. Where do I want to put this? It's easy or medium. I'm going to lean towards medium just because the first few combats are probably going to be pretty hard for you if you're on challenge difficulty. In terms of fun, I think this one is just okay. The mining is normal, and you pretty much just buy the things that say that they counter projectiles, and then you win. So it's fine. It's whatever. Dense iron. Iron on this planet is especially dense, making it difficult to mine. And you can mine it with your drill, but it's going to be a real pain. Once again, we have some of the really tough combats on the challenge difficulty. For all of these regular, you don't have any, or for most of them on regular, you don't have additional combat weight, but I'll focus on the challenge difficulty for the most part. For this one, you can go with explosives, soup blaster, blast mining, or you can go iron worms, which will mine out the iron for you. I don't think this challenge is that hard because while the iron is dense, you can just take worms, which will latch onto the iron, mine it out for you, and spit out additional iron, and everything else is just normal. So it's basically just a regular run, except you have to learn how to use the worms. Which also, if you're using it as your starter gadget, that means you will have to take it in a run and win a run to unlock it as your additional starter gadget. But overall, I don't think this one's too hard. I also don't think it's too interesting. Like I said, it mostly ends up playing out like a regular run. I'm going to put dense iron maybe an easy. And it's probably mid. It's probably a mid challenge. Barren lands. Resources are rare and far apart on this planet, but its rock is very brittle. And what they mean by brittle, which was not obvious to me when I read it, but maybe is obvious, it just means that it's very easy to mine. I found this challenge to be very easy if I use the prospecting meter, which will, show me where resources are. You could also use the probe or the underground station, which has a supplement that gives you a mini map, reveals things to you. It's not a particularly hard challenge. It's not a particularly exciting challenge. We're going to probably go mid again. I'm realizing I put the wrong thing in before. When I fixed the wrong thing, I put a different wrong thing in. Look, I'm working on it. Somebody didn't put these in order, and that person is me. All right, which one are we on? Barren lands. Mid. Mid. Defective weapon. Your dome's main weapon has been destroyed. You'll need to survive by other means. And it turns out that right now there is a secondary weapon, I guess, that is really powerful, and that's the shockwave hammer. Go ahead, start with a shockwave hammer. This lets you start with 2 additional starter gadgets. Looks like I used the teleporter for my second one. Doesn't really matter. Use the auto cannon, the spire, whatever. This ended up not being too difficult. I think it's a cool challenge. Sort of forces you to use these abilities that maybe you haven't taken before. Ultimately, I think the balance is kind of strange right now, where Shockwave Hammer is probably way too powerful. And if you're watching this video in the future, it might have been nerfed, and this challenge might be a lot harder than it is now. I think it's kind of a cool challenge. Yeah, you can do this as well with fully automated weapons. Upgrade your autocannon a whole bunch, for example, and then not come up for the fights. You don't have to come up for the fights at all. Use that time to get more resources. I like the shockwave hammer for this one, but I think it's cool that you can kind of approach this in either direction. So it's kind of a cool challenge. How difficult is it? I think it was pretty easy. All right, we're halfway there. I don't know how long I've been going, but it feels like forever. Heavy hitters. The planet is swarming with melee monsters. So, weirdly, 260% wave strength multiplier, where before we've mostly seen 300s, 200s. But this one is 260%. I'm guessing it's something that got a balance adjustment. I struggled with this one the first couple times I tried it, and then another great player, Zimni, told me, hey, try using the sword. And turns out this challenge is really easy with the sword. But given that you kind of have to know that, and you kind of have to be knowledgeable about how to use the sword a little bit, it's not one of the easier challenges. You can certainly do this and all of the challenges with any weapon. I do think sword makes this one a lot easier, though. Overall, I'm going to put it in medium difficulty for that reason. But if you're used to using the sword, if you like the sword, then it's probably going to be easier than that for you. I have to basically put it in the same place I put Projectile Hell. I don't know. It's maybe a little cooler than Projectile Hell. I'm not really doing ordering within the tiers, but for now I'll pretend that I am. Move it over ahead of Projectile Hell. Wait, no. I don't know. They're both fine. They're both fine. The mining is all the same. The combats are a little different. We won't worry about it too much. Swiss cheese. Rock is extremely dense, but riddled with natural caves. I believe I went some kind of bombs. Blast mining, it looks like. You can use soup mining. You can just upgrade your drill a whole bunch. You could play Assessor if you're one of the 3 people who know how to play Assessor. This one isn't too hard. The additional wave strength that they give you on challenge mode is less than you get on some of these harder challenges. So it's ultimately not too hard. And right now, both the blast mining and the suit blaster are in a pretty strong place, where having dense rock is not necessarily that big of a problem. It's not the easiest challenge. It's not super hard. I'm starting to wonder if I'm going to put anything in hard. So maybe I'll slide this one into hard because I think it took me a few tries. But it's probably not nearly as difficult as Upside Down for me. I think there's a big gap there. In terms of fun, I mean, I like using explosives. There's certainly no reason you have to use the explosives for this challenge, but I think they're strong. It feels weird for me to put it above these ones that I have in mid, and yet I'm going to anyway, just because I think it incentivizes using blast mining or suit blaster, and I like those things, and I'm allowed to be biased because it's my list. Logistical problem. Keeper's transportation tools are damaged. You will need to rely on gadgets. My understanding is that this doesn't really hinder the assessor much at all. I am very bad at playing the assessor. Not a lot of people are good at playing the assessor. It takes a long time to kind of get a good grasp of it. But if you are comfortable with that, then this challenge is probably going to be easy for you. For me, this is one of the harder challenges. You have the higher wave strength, and yes, the drone yard is really good right now to help you transport things, thank goodness. The resource packer and drone yard help a lot here, but I find that when you have this additional wave weight of 300% plus 30, the first few fights are the ones that tend to be really a lot harder than you expect them to be. And it's difficult to bring up enough iron to upgrade your weapon a few times by wave 2, or a few times by wave 3. So this one took me a few tries where I mostly reset at the beginning, like 3 waves into the run or something. I would have to put this up there with Upside Down. None of the challenges took me more than maybe like 5 tries, but I do think my 500 or so hours in this game probably affect that a little bit. How cool do I think this challenge is? I might have to just throw it in mid again. Like, it's basically just a normal run, except it's a huge pain to bring things up. And once you start upgrading your drones a bunch, assuming you're playing Drone Yard, it's just a normal run at that point. I don't know. Difficult early combats and then normal run. I'm not a huge fan, but it's fine. High risk. The corrosive atmosphere of this planet is lethal for your dome and the monsters, making both take more damage. And I believe it is triple damage currently. So this one punishes you pretty hard for showing up to waves late, because any chip damage that might come in is a serious problem. I found this to be a very easy challenge. I used the shield with invulnerability, so if there were some attacks that were going to get through, I just blocked them out, and I was able to kill everything else fast enough. Using laser, you can use whichever weapon you're comfortable with, but I'm good enough with the double laser, just taking everything out because the monsters take extra damage as well. I think that somebody gave me a really powerful setup. It might have been this one. Yeah, so in high risk, Zimni says a player called Luckless Lovelocks, sorry, found a broken strat, Shockhammer plus Wither. And Wither is one of the upgrade paths for the repellent primary gadget. And that if you have that combination, you pretty much just kill everything in one hit. I haven't tried that combo out, but I have it on good authority. Even if you don't know that, though, for me, this was one of the easier challenges for sure. The only real difficulty I had with this one is getting to the waves on time. I'm going to put this one in very easy. Do I think the challenge is cool? Kind of. I think this challenge is kind of cool. It's just neat seeing the enemies melt. You know, it's fun to kill things in a second. I think if you're playing the strategy that makes it a one-hit kill for everything, maybe it's not as fun. But maybe you like that sort of thing. I enjoyed this one anyway. I enjoyed it. Monster masses. Planet is plagued by vast amounts of low-tier monsters. So this one is the one with the hardest combat weight. 60 additional wave weight, wave strength multiplier, 300%. Again, it's a little tough to know exactly what that means in terms of how the game spawns monsters, but it's the highest numbers of any of these, but low tier monsters. So what the game considers low tier, I don't know exactly which monsters it is, but you don't get the ones that do a ton of damage to you, like the Scarab, which is the big scary flyer thing with a shield, or the Stag, which is the thing with the antlers that shoots a million projectiles at you. Those won't spawn at all. So really, I think that if you can just get a couple of weapon upgrades and maybe like the double laser supplement or the bomb tip for the sword, like the combats never actually get any harder because the game is coded, I guess, to not give you too many monsters at the same time. So the waves just get longer, but because all the monsters are low tier, they don't really get any harder. For that reason, I don't like this challenge. I don't think it's fun at all. I think the concept is interesting, but it really does seem like a few tough combats followed by the game just not getting any harder at all. So it's probably somewhere around easy for me. It's probably where I'm going to put it. Iron shortage. The planet contains far too little iron for a normal mining operation. It's pretty much what it sounds like. The combat's not too hard here. They haven't thrown too much additional monsters at you or anything. You can't really rely on worms to provide you with extra iron because the iron ends up spawning in like single spots instead of like a load where you have like 3 blocks of iron connected. You'll just get like a single iron, and that'll go for a couple layers. So really the only good way of getting extra iron is to use the converter, the resource converter, and convert water or something into iron. And it really does seem like the map spawns a lot more water than normal. I don't think I'm imagining that. So it's almost like that was how this challenge was designed to be done. I wish that they would just start you with the converter if that was the intention. Because I think this one is just going to be extremely frustrating if you don't have the resource converter unlocked as a starter gadget or you don't know to use it. I don't love this challenge. I think it's just kind of annoying. I will put it in bad for that reason. I did not mean to open that. I think, yeah, it's just if it's a challenge that essentially just forces you to use one particular gadget or otherwise have a frustrating time. I'm not really a fan of that. Difficulty, it's maybe medium, medium or easy. Do I think it's harder than Maze? Yeah, I do. Last two, mining problem. Keeper's mining tools are damaged, so you will need to rely on gadgets. So basically, the same concept as logistical problem, where your transportation can't be upgraded, your carrying capacity can't be upgraded, except now your drill can't be upgraded, or whatever the equivalent is for the assessor here, your orbs. But now you start with 2 additional starter gadgets compared to 1 in the logistical problem, and there's actually a decrease in wave strength. So it's a similar concept, but it's much easier. And you can do your mining with Suit Blaster or Blast Mining or whatever. Use the Iron Worms, you know. There are a few options. There's the drilling rig. Drillbert if you're adventurous. You are legally allowed to pick Drillbert. I think in terms of how interesting is the challenge, probably about the same as logistical problem. And we did already have a challenge where I personally said I liked using the Suit Blaster and blast mining and stuff. I think I'm going to put this in mid next to Projectile or next to a logistical problem. It's a fine idea for a challenge. How hard is it? It's gotta be easy. It's much easier than some of these ones I have in medium, I think, just because of the lower wave weight. And I think I'm even going to move high risk up because in my mind, Showdown and Iron Contribution are so much easier. Last one, though, Cobalt Contribution. But it works pretty differently from the Iron Contribution. Guild is in urgent need of Cobalt. Requests that you deliver a lot of it quickly. Goal is to deliver 20 Cobalt. You have 18 cycles. And slightly hard combat. Slightly hard relative to what we've been seeing for these other challenges, right? Like, it's easier combat than something like logistical problem, but harder than some of them. Anyway, my experience with this was that it's very easy. I did it well before the allotted cycles. I think that they could have said finish within 12 cycles or something. Do I say that just to make people watching this feel inadequate? Obviously, I gotta hype myself up somehow. No, but seriously, I think getting in the mindset that you can shred gadgets and supplements for 2 Cobalt each is huge. Knowing to search for Cobalt using something like Prospecting Meter, Probe, or the Minimap supplement for the underground station will go a long way. Getting pretty decent at combat so that you're not spending a lot of Cobalt to heal yourself. And I have been told that the converter is a trap here. It sounds useful, but it's too slow, which I can believe for sure. So you've got some options here. I think if you're pretty solid in your combat and you're not using too much Cobalt to heal yourself and you're shredding gadgets that you bring up, I think I picked one gadget and one supplement and then shredded all the ones I found after that. This challenge doesn't end up being too hard. It is harder than Showdown and Iron Contribution. Is it harder than some of these others, like Maze and some of these? It's probably harder than some of them, but I am going to stick it in easy and say, it's not the easiest, but it's on the easy side. In terms of fun, I love a good deliver some resources challenge, and it's different enough from Iron Contribution and different enough from all of the relic hunts you have in here that I'm going to stick it in very cool. I just love something where you're fundamentally doing something different than just hunting for the relic, which you've been doing a whole lot by this point if you're going through the challenges in order. So these are my final rankings. Obviously, if you're watching this well after I post this video, then there could have been any number of balance changes that change the difficulty or the funness of them. Yeah, this is about where I wound up. I know that some of the other players I've spoken to have some disagreements with me on where some of these land, but hey, it's all just depending on what your skill set is and what your experience level is in the game. So if you're struggling with any of these, don't feel bad at all. You just maybe need a few more hours of experience and you'll get the hang of it. That's it. That's it for me. Goodbye, YouTube.